7 money rules that will make you rich. Start them at any age. You've been misled. They made you believe that all you needed to do was study hard, get a job, and wait for life to finally work out. But let me tell you something. There are people with degrees who can't even pay rent. People who worked 40 years and still retire afraid to check their bank app. The truth? The system was never designed to teach you how to get rich. It was designed to keep you dependent. But listen closely, it's not too late. It doesn't matter if you're 20, 40, or 70 years old. Wealth isn't about age. It's about a decision. A decision to change your mindset, to take back control, to stop chasing money, and start making money chase you. And that's exactly what you're going to learn here. 7 rules that turn ordinary people into millionaires and can do the same for you. You don't need luck. You need financial education, real planning, daily action, and most of all, a new philosophy about money. In this video, you'll discover how people like Jim Rohn went from absolute rock bottom, from broke, lost, and in debt, to building solid wealth, a legacy of abundance, and a life of purpose, all with steps that are simple, practical, and doable. Yes, doable for you. Get ready to confront beliefs that have kept you stuck. Maybe you think your biggest problem is earning too little. But what if I told you the real issue was never how much comes in, but what you do with what does? What if I showed you that saving, multiplying, and living with dignity can be far simpler than you were told? Today, you'll see that the rules of wealth are accessible at any age, and they start right now. So grab a notebook, because this isn't just another video. It's a turning point. By the time you reach the end, you won't just have knowledge. You'll have a plan, a map, a fresh start. Because what's coming next isn't theory. It's transformation. Rule 1, live on 70% of your income. When I was 25, I was broke. No money, no plan, no clue where I was headed. That's when I met my mentor, Earl Schoaf. A simple man, but with wisdom that felt like it came from another world. He looked at my finances and said, "Jim, learn to live on 70% of what you earn and invest the other 30% with purpose." Now, I wasn't earning much, but he didn't say, "Wait until you earn more." He said, "Start now with what you got, because it's not about how much you earn. It's about what you do with what you earn." Schoaf taught me to divide that remaining 30% into 3 equal parts: personal growth, investments, and giving. He'd say, "Jim, 10% goes to your mind. Invest in books, courses, seminars. Because when you grow, everything in your life grows." So that's what I did. I bought books like The Millionaire Mind and How to Win Friends and Influence People. I listened to audio programs while driving, and it changed the way I thought about money. Rich people study money. Broke people ignore it. The second 10%, Schoaf said, should be used to make money work for you. He introduced me to simple, consistent investing. Things like compound interest, solid stocks, or low-risk opportunities. I started small, a few dollars a month. But here's what blew my mind. I watched that money grow over time, without me lifting a finger. That's passive income. That's a core piece of financial freedom. Your money should be working like a good soldier. If it just sits still, it rusts. Now for the final 10%, Schoaf told me, "Jim, learn to give. No matter how little you have, give." And I said, "But Earl, I'm broke." He replied, "Exactly. That's why you need to give, to break the cycle of scarcity." So I started small church offerings, helping someone worse off than me. And guess what? Abundance started flowing. Giving makes room for receiving. It shapes your money philosophy. You stop being a hoarder and start being a channel. That simple formula: 70% to live, 10% to grow, 10% to invest, 10% to give back, was a plan that took me from drowning in debt to building smart financial habits. And I repeat this in every talk I give, no matter the audience's age. Start small, but start. Because once you master the 70% rule, you're ready for the next level. Learning how to make money work for you while you sleep. And that, my friend, is when life really starts to change. Rule 2, save and grow your money. You know when my financial life really started to change? It was the moment my mentor told me, Jim, if you don't save part of everything you earn, you'll work your whole life and still end up with nothing. And he was right. The problem is, most people only think about saving what's left over. But the secret is this: save first, spend later. The moment money comes in, you take your cut automatically. No debate, no excuses. That's called automatic saving. Because if you wait until there's extra, there never will be. Back then, I was making just a few dollars an hour. It wasn't much. But Shof looked me in the eye and said, Jim, if you can't save 10 cents out of every dollar now, what makes you think you'll save 100 when you're earning 1,000? The lesson was clear. It's not about the amount. It's about the habit. That's consistency. You train your financial muscle with pennies. So when the big opportunity comes, you're already strong enough to handle it. Saving isn't just about storing money. It's about training your mind to respect your future. Now don't get it twisted. Saving isn't hiding cash under your mattress. My mentor used to say, idle money is like still water, it rots. Money needs to grow. Once I understood that, I started small, investing in basic saving certificates, then in solid stocks like Coca-Cola and AT&T, and eventually in real estate. You start small but with discipline. The right question isn't, how much can I save? It's, how can I make this grow? That's financial intelligence in practice. One of the greatest lessons I ever learned is this: money is a great servant, but a terrible master. If you control it, it works for you. If you don't understand it, it ends up controlling your life. I used to pay bills late. Every red notice in the mail felt like a personal failure. Until one day I said, enough. I opened a separate account, set up automatic transfers, and started saving just 5%. Then I pushed to 10%. Today, that daily habit is one of the pillars of my financial freedom. What saved me, what really changed the game, was building this golden habit. Pay yourself first, before rent, before food, before anything. Because if you don't pay yourself first, no one else will. And over time, that small gesture becomes a movement. That movement becomes stability. And suddenly, the fear of opening your bank app disappears. You start to realize this one small step was preparing you for the next one. Studying money like your life depends on it. Because it does. Rule 3, study money. Most people spend 12 years in school, 4 or 5 in college, and still never learn what compound interest is. I was one of those people. At 25, I didn't know what an asset was, how income tax worked, or even what it meant to invest. But my mentor, Earl Shof, told me something I never forgot. Jim, if you want to make money, study money. So that's exactly what I did. I started with the classics. The Richest Man in Babylon, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and even books on how the mind works. Because making money, my friend, requires financial education just as much as it requires willpower. Shof used to say, school teaches you how to make a living, but you got to teach yourself how to earn freedom. The key was what he called continuous learning. He read every single day. So I started doing the same, just 30 minutes a day to read something about personal finance. Could be an article, a book chapter, even an audio lesson. Today, you have entire YouTube channels, podcasts, free ebooks, all in your pocket. The question is, are you really learning or just wasting time online? I still remember the first time I read that a credit card isn't money. It's debt in disguise. That woke me up. Most people are fighting financial battles without even knowing the rules of the game. And how do you win a game you don't even know you're playing? Each concept I learned, how to track expenses, how to build assets, how to calculate return on investment, was like turning on the lights in a dark hallway. And the more I read, the clearer the world became. That's what financial self-awareness feels like. Some people think only experts understand money, but that's a myth. Anyone can learn if they decide to. I've met cab drivers, housekeepers, even a man who sold popcorn at the park, who all started changing their lives once they realized money isn't just meant to be spent. It's meant to be mastered. They started small, learning what inflation is, what diversification means, and how time can either be your greatest ally or your biggest enemy. Financial intelligence is a tool that turns good intentions into a real financial plan. And here's the most beautiful part of the process. The more you learn, the harder it is to be fooled. You don't fall for scams. You don't buy on impulse. You think, you analyze, you decide with clarity. That confidence shows up in everything. Your eyes, your walk, the way you carry yourself in life. Financial knowledge gives you power, and that power prepares you for something even greater. Planning your money before it leaves your account. That's our next lesson. Rule 4. Plan your money before you spend it. Let me tell you a simple truth. Money without a plan always finds the worst destination. I learned that the hard way. Before I met Shof, my money slipped through my fingers like sand. It would come in at the start of the month, and by the 10th, it was already gone. My mentor looked at me and said, "Jim, you need to sit down and tell your money where to go, because if you don't, it'll leave without saying goodbye." And that was the start of one of the most powerful habits of my life. Monthly planning. Just a sheet of paper, a pen, and a decision. I started by writing down what came in and where I thought it would go. Shof taught me to break it down. 70% for living, 10% for growth, 10% for investing, 10% for giving. But the real magic was in planning it beforehand. Before the month even started, I already knew where every cent was going. And if something changed, I adjusted. That gave me control. More than that, it gave me emotional clarity. Because when money has a purpose, it stops being a burden and becomes a tool. These days, people rely on apps, which is great, but the old school habit still works wonders. Grab a notebook and write. List your estimated income, fix expenses, savings goals, and of course, your priorities for the short and long term. That's the difference between someone crying over credit card debt and someone investing with calm confidence. It's not about having more. It's about doing more with what you already have. And over time, that simple plan becomes a bridge between your dreams and your reality. I remember when I started making more money, the first thing I thought was, now I'll finally have peace. But then Shof, with his calm smile, said, "Jim, a common mistake is earning more and spending more. Stick to the same plan. Just expand your wisdom in how you manage it." So I learned to save the extra, to reinvent the strategy, and put every raise or bonus to work for a clear purpose. That protected me from impulsive spending and the trap of upgrading my lifestyle without a solid foundation. A simple plan always beats short-term emotion. Now you might ask, but what if my income is unstable? Here's what Shof told me. Make a plan anyway. Base it on the minimum you earn, not the maximum. Plan as if the worst-case scenario is your starting point. And if more money comes in, perfect. You'll already know exactly where it's going. Invest, grow, build. Because money without a plan is like a team with no coach. It might have talent, but it won't win. Now that you've learned how to manage it, let's talk about how to build assets that work for you. Rule 5, build assets, not just savings. One of the most powerful lessons my mentor ever taught me changed my life forever. "Jim, money sitting still only becomes freedom if it's working for you." Shof once said, "Money that just sits there is like a wagon full of gold at the bottom of a river." And I never forgot that. An asset is anything that continues to create value, even when you're not around. It could be a rental property, a book that keeps selling, or an online course someone's watching while you sleep. I started with a product that sold itself while I was in bed. That's when I first understood the power of passive income. A lot of people think building assets takes a lot of money. Not true. What you really need is creativity with strategy. Shof told me, start with what you know. So I began teaching others what I was learning. I gave talks, recorded audio lessons, wrote notes that later became books. And those books, they still pay me to this day. Your knowledge, your life experiences, your mistakes, your victories can be turned into an asset. That's the beginning of wealth building. If you're great in the kitchen, sell recipes or start a YouTube channel. If you're good at gardening, offer consulting. If you know how to fix bikes, teach it online. An asset frees you from trading time for money. Hourly pay is limited, but an asset works 24/7. Holidays, weekends. It doesn't sleep, doesn't call in sick, doesn't complain. That's why wealthy people think like investors, not employees. They ask, what can I build today that will pay me 5 years from now? And you can start with that same question. Personally, I invested in real estate. I bought a small property, fixed it up, and rented it out. That became part of my portfolio. But before that, I started small, selling vitamins. Every step was rooted in the money philosophy I had learned. Don't just save, create assets. Because savings without direction is just fear. But savings that becomes capital, that's freedom. A course you teach, an ebook you write, even a channel like this one. All of it can become an asset. Now, here's a key point. Don't be afraid to take smart risks. Shof always told me, Jim, the biggest risk is doing nothing. Most people fear investing because they're afraid of losing money. But if you let your money sit still, you're already losing to inflation, to time, to stagnation. Freedom is a game of action and vision. And once you got assets working for you, it becomes a lot easier to take the next step, tracking every cent and taking full control of your financial life. Rule 6, track every expense. One day, Shof looked at me and asked, Jim, how much did you spend on food last month? I answered like most people would. I'm not sure, but I don't think it was much. And then he hit me with the truth. Jim, if you say I think, that means you don't know. And if you don't know, you're not in control. That hit me like a lightning bolt. From that day forward, I started tracking everything, not out of obsession, but out of responsibility. Tracking your expenses isn't boring. It's liberating. Knowing where your money goes gives you clarity about who you're becoming. At first, I wrote everything down in a notebook. Simple, income on one side, expenses on the other. Then I used index cards. Later, spreadsheets. And today, you got apps that do it in seconds. But here's the thing, the habit must come from you. Once I started tracking, I discovered I was spending way more than I thought on things that didn't matter. Little coffees, unnecessary dinners, forgotten subscriptions. Seeing it all on paper, I realized the problem wasn't my salary. It was my invisible spending. That's called financial self-awareness. You've heard the phrase, what gets measured gets improved. Exactly. When I finally saw the numbers in front of me, I started noticing patterns. Days when I spent more out of emotion, things I bought on impulse. And then I could change not just the budget, but my behavior. That's why tracking expenses is such a powerful act of financial intelligence. It's not just the money that changes, you change with it. You begin to respect every penny, because every penny is a seed, and you get to choose, plant it, or waste it. Someone once said to me, I don't have time for that. I replied, then you'll stay without time and without money. Your financial record is the mirror of your money life. You can lie to yourself, but the numbers never do. And the best part? You start seeing what you really value. If you say education is a priority, but your budget shows $0 on learning and $300 on takeout, it's time to align your actions with your values. Simple, consistent tracking creates massive long-term impact. And here's the beauty of it. Once you know where your money's going, you can decide where it should go. You stop being a passenger. You get behind the wheel. And when you master that level of awareness, you're ready to think even bigger. Because well-managed money isn't just about paying bills. It's about building a legacy. And that's what we'll talk about next. Leaving behind something even more valuable than money for the generations to come. Rule 7. Think in terms of legacy. I always say this. You're not immortal, but what you teach can be. One day, Shof asked me a question I'll never forget. Jim, what are your children going to learn from the way you handle money? That stopped me in my tracks. Up until that point, I was just thinking about surviving, paying bills, maybe retiring comfortably. But Shof showed me something bigger. You don't build wealth just for yourself. You build it to create a financial culture in your family. What you leave behind isn't just inheritance. It's a model. Now hear me. Legacy doesn't have to be millions. It can be the example of a life lived with purpose. It can be a notebook filled with years of discipline, a spreadsheet, or the lessons passed down over dinner conversations. I once met a farmer who didn't leave much in material wealth, but he left behind journals, detailed notes on every crop, every expense, every strategy. And his children said those notebooks taught them more about money than any college ever did. That's generational planning. That's passing down values, not just possessions. You can teach your kids how to spend or how to invest. You can show them what debt looks like or what building wealth looks like. Legacy starts with the small talks, the silent examples. If every time money comes up you get angry, panic, or shut down, what are you really teaching? But if you speak openly, calmly, and share real financial wisdom, then you're shaping a new generation. A generation that will know how to build assets, save with intention, and live below their means. That's family leadership. I started bringing my family into my financial planning. We'd sit together, go over the budget, decide where to donate, where to invest. And do you know what came out of that? Trust, clarity, unity, because money doesn't live in a vacuum. It reflects our choices. And when you share those choices with the people you love, you build an emotional and financial foundation. That's legacy. Making sure the next generation starts a few steps higher, not back where you started. And maybe you're thinking, but Jim, I'm already 60. I haven't built anything. And I'll tell you what Shof told me. Today is still better than never. Plant something now, even if it's small. The value is in the gesture, not the size. Teach, share, guide. Because the biggest lie is thinking you have nothing to give. You have wisdom. You have experience. You have your story. And if you apply these 7 lessons we've covered, then you're more than ready to do something even greater. Look at your life and choose where to start changing. Now tell me, which of these 7 rules are you going to start applying today? Not tomorrow, not after the next paycheck. Today, because remember, knowledge without action isn't power. It's a burden. And I don't want you to just know more about money. I want you to live better because of it. So be honest, which area hit you hardest? Was it the lack of planning? Was it the struggle to save consistently? Or was it realizing you've never thought about leaving a legacy? Drop a comment below. Rate yourself from 1 to 10 in each area of your financial life. Your vulnerability might just be the wake-up call someone else needed to change their life too. And remember, you don't need to be young. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to be a financial genius. You just need a clear decision, a simple routine, and the courage to start small. $5 saved, 1 expense tracked, 1 notebook filled with your plans. That's how it begins. Because those who start small with discipline are the ones who finish big, with freedom. If this message sparks something in you, if it lit a fire, even just a little, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Here, we don't just talk about money. We talk about choices, habits, living with purpose. There's so much more coming, and you won't want to miss it. So, what will you do next? Watch another video and forget everything? Or will you get up, grab a notebook, and start rewriting your story? The choice is yours. But I believe in you. Let's walk this road together.